Well, hello friends, and welcome back to Shop Talk. I'm your host Tyler, and on today's episode I'm going to be showing you how you can safely and effectively hang a television in any room you have. Motherfucker! Well, I guess we'll make a wine rack or something. Ever since the people of South Caucasus figured out around 8,000 years ago that rotten grape juice makes you feel good and dance better, well, people have been bottling it, selling it, and drinking it ever since. You guessed it, I'm talking about wine. Now, it's also recently come to my attention that some people actually buy wine without the intention of drinking it all that night. And if that sounds like you, well, then you're going to need a place to put it. So that's why today on Shop Talk, I'm going to show you guys how you can take a few pieces of scrap wood and turn it into a very cheap, easy, and effective wine rack. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, you'll need just a few things to get this project going, most of which I'm sure you've already got just laying around your garage. First and foremost, you will need a 2x4, and for this project, probably around 3.5 feet. You're also going to need a power drill as well as just a regular Phillips head screwdriver and flathead screwdriver. You're also going to need 4 of these 2.5-inch wood screws. You'll need 4 2.5-inch finishing screws. You're also going to need 2 of these 4-inch L brackets that come with included screws. There's also some keyhole hangers. You'll need 2 of these. They also come with included screws. You'll need 2 of these drywall anchors. You're also going to need 2 different kinds of sandpaper, 80 grit and 220 grit. You'll also need some black spray paint and gloves, some wood stain, some masking tape, some wood glue, and a miter saw. And if you don't have a miter saw, well then I guess you're okay with your neighbor making sweet love to your wife. Because that's what's happening. You fucking loser. Get a miter saw. Oh, other than that, you're going to need a 1 1/4 inch spade bit and a pencil. Well, let's go ahead and knock this thing out. Well, before we begin, it's always good to make sure that we're going to start a project with a very straight, unwarped piece of wood. So let's check it out. Well, this 2x4's got a bigger twist in it than an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so guess where I get to go? So about $5 later, we're ready to start our project. I set my miter saw to 45 degrees, and I cut the end of the 2x4 off, and measure from the tip of that 45-degree angle in 13 inches. Make a mark all the way around the board, and this is where the edge of the next 45 will end up. Go ahead and put a 45-degree mark on there, and then get some masking tape and tape around where you're going to be sawing, so that way you don't get any splintering. Now, something I was not anticipating is my saw actually came into contact with the 2x4, preventing it from cutting all the way through, but I just broke it off, got some tin snips out, and then sanded it smooth. Wasn't really an issue. Had to do this 2 more times for the other boards though. Another little pro tip, go ahead and get your pencil out and erase those marks. Save yourself a little work later on when you're sanding. Now it's time to figure out where our holes are going to go on our board and measure from the top of the 45-degree bevel 3 1/4 inch, and then to find the center of the board, that's going to be around 1 3/4 inch. Go ahead and do that twice on each side of the board. And then get your spade bit. That is a 1 1/4 inch spade bit. Make sure you've got a sacrificial piece of scrap wood underneath and apply a lot of pressure. That way you're not having a lot of chunking out and splitting and fraying of your board. Do that 3 times and you're all ready to sand. Make sure you get in those holes good. You don't want to have a rough hole. Get on the edges of the holes. Don't want to catch a splinter when you're trying to catch a buzz. Now grab your sanding block with some 80 grit sandpaper and go ahead and just knock everything down, get it ready for the palm sander. Then when you're using your palm sander, you want to use 220 grit, and that's going to give everything a real smooth, nice finish. It's going to look real good afterwards. Now I'm lining everything up, seeing how I want it. I get my glue out, pour it in a little tray, and I've got just a little foam brush. Dab, 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 and dab, dab, dab. Just dab it all on there. Nice, generous, healthy amount of glue. Make sure that you're using enough glue that it actually squeezes out, and grab some masking tape and tape your 2 pieces of wood together just to make sure it doesn't move around. Then I grabbed 2 zip ties, put them together, and cinched that up real good and tight. Ended up being a really good idea in the long run to hold everything together.
Now grab a rag or a paper towel and go ahead and wipe away all your excess glue. It's just going to save you some sanding down the road. The cleaner you get that. I didn't want this curing to my workbench, so I put it on the ground, put some right angles and some clamps on it, and left it overnight. While that was drying, I got the paint out and painted my 2 L brackets with the included screws. Then I came back to the wine rack after everything was dry the next morning, removed all my clamps, and started sanding away all the wood glue. Then after that, I traced my keyhole hangers and used my drill to waller out an area for the keyhole hangers to sit snugly and recessed, so that way they don't poke out and damage your wall. It's also important that when you install these keyhole hangers, you use the 4-inch wood screws I discussed earlier. The included screws are too short, and I wouldn't trust them to hold up the weight of 6 bottles of wine. After that, it's time to start staining. Make sure you get a good ample amount of stain all over this thing, in the holes, on the edges, in the cracks. You really can't put too much stain on there, because then you're just going to wipe it all off. And then after that, you use masking tape to hold down your hardware while you drill your pilot holes, and that's very important because you definitely don't want your wood to split when you're almost done with this project. After that, go ahead and put your hardware in with a hand screwdriver, not a power screwdriver. You don't want to damage the screws right before you're finished. Then after that, you just take off your masking tape and put some wine in it. It's ready to be a wine rack now. Well, if you didn't have a nice rack before, you definitely do now. I won't actually be mounting this in this video, as the process is pretty straightforward, and I do intend on giving this away at Christmas time as a present. But when I do give it away, I'll be giving it away with these 1/2-inch drywall anchors, which as you can see, definitely can handle the load of some wine.
Well, looky there, friends, we did it. Another build for the books. Big ol' shout out to my boy Craig over at Build It Better. He's the one that actually gave me the idea for this wine rack, and his video's got a really good segment on how to mount it to the wall, so his link's in the description. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a like, comment on the video, and subscribe to my channel. Kinda looks like I got a lot of cleaning up to do, so thanks for watching, and as always, try not to cut any fucking fingers off. Alright then.